contact of mine on Facebook recently put a very insightful status update. She said something along the lines of, "I'd like something, but I don't know what." This is a luxury we've got in a modern free society. If you're living under a tyrannical regime, then you want freedom. If you're living in poverty, then you want food, shelter and security and so on. But if you're living in a wealthy, free, comfortable society, then what do you want? Do you just extend what it's like to be poor in a rich society? Do you just extend that need for freedom, for material security to an endless degree? Do you consume inordinately? Or maybe you realise you've got everything. You've got friends, you're comfortable, you might have a loved one, but there's still something which doesn't quite satisfy. There's still a strain of discontent. There's still a hole inside which isn't quite satisfied. And this is dukkha. This is the inherent dissatisfaction that we feel if we're honest, if we look really deep. Of course it might be we're quite easily satisfied. Our animal needs are met and we're happy. Great. But if you've got some awareness, then you'll have this feeling there's more going on here. You're not quite getting the full picture here. You're not quite getting the best deal. And there's nothing out there which is going to provide it. This is dukkha. And Sutra 5 tells us to think otherwise is ignorance. If you think you are going to be satisfied by what the world can provide you, then you're missing the point. You're in a state of non-wisdom. Why can we not be ultimately satisfied with what the world has got to offer? Well, this is because there's nothing permanent in the world. You might have your loved one, you might have your material needs met, you might have your health, and so on. But it's going to come to an end. You're going to get old if you're lucky, and chances are you're going to get ill, you'll become frail, your loved ones will die, you might end up alone. It's all impermanent. This wealthy society you're living in could become anarchic and impoverished. Everything changes. But we don't like to acknowledge that. Again, this is ignorance. Ignorance is cognizing the impermanent as permanent. So we decide to live as if everything is permanent and things aren't going to change. But at some point, there'll be some kind of trauma which will shake all that up. But we like to ignore that. I'm quite comfortable right now. No need to be thinking about these things. So this is ignorance. And the third mark of existence, the third characteristic of the world is, the word is anatman, which is translated here as not self. And this is a tricky one, but it follows on from things being impermanent. Another way of saying things being impermanent is that things change. Change is always happening. There are patterns within change which seem to have a relative stability, but this change is carrying on all the time. I said things change. We must be careful that we don't get caught up in semantics, because it's not that things are changing. It's simply that change is happening. What is it that changes? I look in the mirror and I see myself changing from one year to the next. But how do I know there's something other than what is changing? You might cite a belief in an immortal soul, but you're not seeing that in the mirror. In fact, you've no evidence for it whatsoever other than your own belief, which isn't evidence at all. It's just a position which you've chosen to adopt. So this is the not-self. There's only change. There isn't anything that's changing. When spring changes to summer, summer isn't spring in disguise, is it? When summer changes to autumn, autumn isn't summer in disguise. There isn't some primordial season which is manifesting itself as spring, summer, autumn and winter. There's only the spring, there's only the summer, there's only the autumn, there's only the winter. There isn't some primordial season which is changing. So spring doesn't change into summer. It's just that summer takes over from spring. So there's only change. There isn't anything that's changing though. So this is very profound and is worth dwelling on. It's worth thinking about it. Think about it when you're going to sleep. Think about it during the day. There's only change. So again, ignorance is seeing the self in the not-self. So Sutra 6 is about the world and our relationship with it. And it's the basis for the afflictions, for the poisons, the kleshas.